intel operatives, passports of former presidents, and FBI informants turning up murdered are all part of a deep storyline that sounds like something from a movie, but it's going on right under our nose and in plain sight. It's a struggle trying to piece it all together, but people are on top of these investigations on their own, sometimes being correct, sometimes not, but there's one fact that remains. Something is happening and people are constantly trying to figure it out. Of course, it often ends up with a body being found and then linked to something that may have been important, incriminating, or nothing more than a witness to something much bigger. Obama's passport, John Brennan, and a body are what we have so far. It was reported that back in March 2008, the State Department launched an investigation of improper computer access to the passport records of Barack Hussein Obama, and days later those of Hillary Clinton and John McCain. The investigation centered on one employee, a contract worker for a company that was headed by John O. Brennan, a key Obama campaign advisor who later became assistant to the president and deputy national security advisor for Homeland Security and Counterterrorism. Then, a month later, the key witness in this case was murdered. Lieutenant, Sick, Quarles Harris, Jr., 24, was shot in the head in his car, in front of his church. During the 2008 presidential election, I ran a number of stories at my website, atlasshrugs.com, on the breach of Obama's passport. Fast forward to 4 years later, and there is no new information. Why is this MR case not being pursued? Who at the State Department is covering up Obama's passport breach? Lieutenant Harris told federal investigators before he was murdered that he received passport information from a co-conspirator who works for the U.S. Department of State. What became of the co-conspirator? Why wasn't he or she brought to trial? I always thought that the perpetrators rifled through Clinton's and McCain's files to make it look as if they were looking for dirt on all three, but that it was Obama's passport records that they were actually interested in accessing. Thus, secondarily, almost as an afterthought, there were violations concerning Clinton and McCain, for who stood to gain from a tampering, and why. There is no way to tell what might have been done to Obama's passport records by those who accessed them. Key information could have been altered or destroyed. On April 8, 2008, after the breach became public, Obama confessed to having taken a trip to Pakistan in 1981. The then candidate said, "I traveled to Pakistan when I was in college." Journalist Jake Tapper was surprised and said, "This last part, a college trip to Pakistan, was news to many of us who have been following the race closely, and it was odd that we hadn't heard about it before, given all the talk of Pakistan during this campaign. Considering it was Obama and everyone knew who he was, it doesn't seem like his passport would really need to be altered. If it was probably just to make it legit." Then you realize that his passport might have included a trip that opposition maybe could have used, and now we have a case of make it go away. Of course, there is the fact that if Obama was on a trip in college, then why would anyone care? That's a big question in and of itself. What was there to gain by knowing that some guy named Barack went to Pakistan? Was it because there may have been a violation or crime in the form of a passport breach? Did Obama confess to this trip, which he doesn't mention in either of his autobiographies, because of the passport breach? While the oft-repeated charge that Americans were forbidden to travel to Pakistan in 1981 appears to be false, questions remain about why Obama took the trip at all, and what he did there. Indian counterterrorism expert Bayakutumbi Raymond asked pointed questions about this trip. Why did he keep mum on his visit to Pakistan till this question was raised? Has he disclosed all the details regarding his Pakistan visit? Was it as innocuous as made out by him, to respond to the invitation of a Pakistani friend, or was there something more to it? As I read about Obama's visit to Pakistan in the 1980s, I could not help thinking of dozens of things, of the Afghan jihad against communism, of the fascination of many Afro-Americans for the jihad, of the visits of a stream of Afro-Americans to Pakistan to feel the greatness of the jihad, of their fascination for Abdullah Azzam. It bears noting that John Brennan has made some incredible pro-terror remarks, some in Arabic no less, about the beauty of jihad. Raymond acknowledged that these were morbid speculations but said they were understandable when one has a feeling that one has not been told the whole story. but only a part of it. And Obama confessed to this trip 2 weeks after his passport was tampered with. There is a video here of Obama's response to the passport breach back on March 21, 2008. It's telling that he assures everyone that he has nothing to hide. Not because I have any particular concerns. 023. This is before the birth certificate controversy. Who would say that? Unless he did have particular concerns. Obama said at the time that attempts to tap into people's personal records were a problem not just for me, but for how our government functions. The real issue here is that no matter what shady business was going on with Obama and his passport, the fact remains that a man lost his life and it might have been over this nonsense. Doesn't that man deserve better than to be shot in the head in a car all because of what he knows? Perhaps. But this is the political realm we're speaking of, and it all seems like one huge dramatic movie to me. Where will the plot twist next? What was this all about?